Hi, everyone, and welcome to Wise Leader Wednesday. I am here with my friend and colleague, Laura Dix, who is the CEO and wealth advisor of Legacy Financial. She is an entrepreneur, a financial expert, and a mom of two young kiddos. And I'm so excited to have her here today because she just really embodies wise leadership and learning how to have it all without doing it all. So
I don't know about that.
thank you. I think so. Thank you for being here, Laura. I'm so happy to see you and have you here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I always love everything you do to make us just empower ourselves and feel better about, being able, like you said, to be personal, like individuals, but then also leaders and entrepreneurs. So sometimes people think it's a one size fits all and doesn't have to be that way. So, yes.
Right, right. I appreciate that so much. And, I think some of the things we model are not having to be perfect at it and, learning how to juggle and learning how to allow some things to slip through the cracks when need be. Right.
Yeah, I'm still working on that one, but yeah, it's important.
I would love for you to share with our audience a bit about, your own wise leader journey. And I know you started as, a softball athlete and just all the things you've accomplished and what you think that journey looks like for you.
Okay, I'll try to be quick, but yeah, I've been in the sports world for a while. Just younger, growing up, always was involved. It was a good outlet for me, but also when you tend to be a little bit, this is a term I embrace, so sorry if folks don't, but when you tend to be a little on the nerdy and book side, it's good for you to have just that outlet and those people around you. So I did volleyball, softball, basketball all throughout high school, and then in college just did softball. Then I stayed on and coached for about a decade at two different colleges. So was very involved in that. And that was not just a passion, but also, for lack of a better phrase, like a ministry or an outreach on my part, to try to feel like you can help people with their lives. And at that point, where they're trying to decide what careers do I want and things like that. So that was a great experience. All while going through that, my full uh, desire at that time was to go more into the medical field and be involved in that with some kind of introspection and bouncing it off of a few people in my family and friends. It really became clear, which is a phrase I still use now, is don't worry so much about the title and the job you have, but worry what type of career and work environment do you want. So what that meant for me in English was, do I want to be where I have to go clock in somewhere, or I have to be at a clinic, or do I want more of that flexibility and that ability that you might not be off much, but you can work from your house, and just that give and take of what does that mean. So that really helped me realize that while my main goal was to help people and feel like I was making an impact on their lives, doing that through medicine was probably not the best route for me, at least. So with that, my family growing up, my dad's been in investment, services and financial planning. And I realized really I'm going to be able to have just as much of an impact, I mean, in a different way, but just as much of an impact through helping people with their finances, because aside from health, money is their usually secondary concern. So I'll be able to develop relationships with people and get that kind of selfishly, that personal aspect that I want of really feeling like I get to know people and help them, but also help put those puzzle pieces together and really have an impact on their personal lives. So that's how I ended up here. And then through being in our company, it's our business as an industry, not just here, but as an industry is changing a lot. So really what that means is we all get into this field having all of those same goals that I just described. What it's slowly becoming is you have to wear two hats. You have to wear the CEO kind of business owner hat, but then you also have to wear the wealth advisor hat. So, kind of working on, they're all one and the same in some ways, but also clearly defining those roles and being a leader as to what helps the team, not just selfishly what helps me. has been really important. So that kind of gets us to present day. Little quick synopsis.
Yeah. And I think, one of the things that you benefited from was growing up in a household of entrepreneurs and being able to see, what's possible and understand the freedom and flexibility that can come with that.
It was really impactful. And in all honesty, when you're younger, like, I don't know if your girls are this way. I know my kids are this way, but it's something that you glaze over at the time and you don't really realize until you look back. So kind of what that is it's the give and take of when you grow up in a house of entrepreneurs, you have times of feast or famine. So like when the tech bubble hits and things like that, when you're in the investment world, that means that you're buying what you need, period. And that's it. No vacations, no anything. But what it also instilled in me is that flexibility, but also the lack of, the proverbial like glass ceiling. Because in a lot of the industries that my family's in, female and male, it's really the sky's the limit based on what you want out of it. Because you could just say, hey, I'm perfectly happy to be very simple and that's great. Or all of this work that I'm doing is going to pay off and I will see that. So it was important for me to recognize that flexibility and that command of your own life was part of it, but then also that ability to really keep striving if that's what you wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds to me like you're very grounded in purpose, right? Like you have a purpose to help people, to make an impact in the world, but also a strong value around your freedom and your family, right? Being able
Yeah.
to be present to them.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you said, it's the balance that we feel like we're always striving, but likely never feel like you have fully grasped. There's, moments where I feel like, oh, I should be at home or I should be doing this, this, and this with my kids. And then on the flip side, I'll have days where I leave early to do all those said things. And then my email and my phone's blowing up. But you have to be very deliberate of, being where you are when you're there.
Mhm.
Um, and whether or not I found the balance, I don't know if I ever really will. Personally, I think that's kind of a fallacy, but just trying to kind of pick your priorities and, be where you are when you're there. And sometimes I succeed and sometimes I don't, but trying.
Right. Well, and I think wise leadership is about having grace with yourself too, right? Like
Yeah.
acknowledging it's not always going to look or feel perfect, but learning how to set some boundaries, right? So, like you said, being where you are when you're there and making
Yeah.
those deliberate choices.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's really important. And I think grace, you talk about it in the book and you talk about boundaries. Personally, for me, that's something that is one of my biggest probably works in progress because in our industry, it's a big, I guess, conception. I'm not sure of the best word to use. The harder you work, the more you'll see it. And you might as well keep going because the opportunities are endless. But then there comes a point where you're like, what am I working for? Like, what am I doing this for? So it's important to figure that out professionally, but then also personally, those boundaries. Like, I know probably 3-ish years ago, I can't recall exactly, I was just burning the candle at both ends, trying to be everything for everybody. And like my self care wasn't great. I'm not a crier by any stretch of the imagination. And I was like very emotional. And so I was like, okay, something's got to give. And for me, that was really grounded in, and it's different for everybody, but for me, that was really grounded in activity. So not exercises and I'm killing myself, but like intentional movement and when I get those moments where it seems like too much, that might be where I go for a 20-minute walk or something of that nature. But for me, that helps bring me back and clear my mind. So kind of hoping somebody, that's listening, they find what works for them. Maybe it's meditation, maybe it's reading, I don't know. But for me, it's movement.
Yeah, yeah. And that's often when clients will seek me out for
Yeah,
coaching is when, they're highly ambitious, they're highly successful, but they're way out of balance and they
yeah,
need to learn how to, and I've probably said this on other calls, but I picture it like a Roman chariot and like the horse is your ambition, but you got to have the reins and you got to be in
yeah,
control. And sometimes that horse jumps in, jumps in the chariot and it's running you. And we
yeah,
have to get that back in balance. And
right.
I think you're right that it's sometimes it's a teeter-totter, right? It's not
Mhm.
the legal scale. Sometimes it's the teeter-totter. And
Yeah.
that's okay too, as long as you're very consciously choosing,
Yeah.
where your focus is going to be for a while.
Right. Right. Well, and I think you said grace because um, I'm trying really hard not to offend people when I say this, so I'm sorry ahead of time if I do. I think that, especially, I mean, my husband and I were just talking about this. Women still in the workplace have this almost like expectation of you should basically be a full-time employee with all this ambition and all this drive. But by the way, if you have children, um, you should also be basically the equivalent of a mom who stays home. So you should be doing all the things, doing the bake sales, doing this, doing that. And it's like at some point in time, that expectation needs to drop off. But in the meantime, the only way to kind of change the narrative is, maybe my kid goes to school with store-bought cookies instead of homemade ones for the bake sale. And that's, sorry, that's just how we roll, And so it's one of those where that grace is really important, because I think even though I grew up with a working mom who was very ambitious, like she was in politics, um, there it was their balance at home was very just, hey, this is what needs to get done. It wasn't gender roles, it was more just, this is the to-do list, let's divide it up. And I think I married into a really traditional family, and I felt almost this obligation of like, I need to fulfill these roles because this is what he's used to. That was my own self creating it. He had nothing to do with it, but
Mm-hmm.
that's what I took upon myself. So I feel like some grace and kind of setting your own personal expectations is really important.
I think that's spot on. And there's data and research, I'm a geek about that, to
Yeah.
support that women are working and then still feeling the responsibility of home and
Yeah.
feeling like, they have to bake the cookies and this and that. And I am so not the baking or crafty mom. Like I
Yeah.
would buy it at the store and
Yeah.
it's not my thing. And I remember when my kids were in preschool and some of these moms who still were, they were working, I knew them. And, for Valentine's Day, they're sending the handwritten, handmade cards and the like homemade things. And I'm like, at Walmart buying, buying the pre-made
Me
cards and going,
too. Me
why do
too.
we have to do this? These kids can't even read.
That's so true. And I mean,
Right. And that's what
yeah,
I say too. Like you have to check like what's important for you. Like
yeah,
if it's important for you to bake the cookies, right? I'm
absolutely.
not
Yeah.
pooing that,
And
but
that
it's
might be
about
their
your
outlet.
values. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. Go ahead,
No,
Laura.
I was just going to say that might be that parent's outlet. I have some
Yeah.
friends that if things are really, they'll like bake, they're like the anxious baker. So maybe that's what
Right.
works for them. But I think like the most important thing that, I think working with you and other just kind of introspective work over the last couple of years, and God bless my husband because he's told me this for years, but it took outside validation, I guess. A lot of these feelings of like lack of, oh, I can't hack it, or whatever the term that you want to use is, or like, oh, I'm not keeping up, were completely self-inflicted. Because my husband's like, you're killing it. You're doing all these things. Our kids love you. You're a great mom. But I kept like, I have to do this. I have to do that. Well, nobody was saying that except for me. So, I think some of it is kind of getting to that place, for people. And so hopefully everybody finds it because it's a lot more pleasant than what I was doing a couple years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, one of the struggles that women have when they choose wise leadership and one of the obstacles they have to overcome to get there is their own harsh inner critic, right?
Yeah.
That tells them they have to do everything and they have to do everything perfect. And, a lot of times, it's us not asking for help
Yeah.
either, right? Like I've just probably somewhat recently learned to say, you know what, I have meetings right up till 5 o'clock or right up to 6 o'clock. You have to figure out dinner tonight.
Yep.
Or sorry guys, tonight's frozen pizza night.
Yep.
Like
We're having grilled cheese. Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah.
And my kids are teenagers now. They may not always like it, but sometimes, the responsibility does have to fall to them.
Yeah.
And the flip side of that is they're incredibly proud that they have a mom that runs a business, that does public speaking, that, is in charge of her life and has a very fulfilling career and still, loves and takes care of them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You don't have to choose. It might look a little bit different than the homes up and down the street, but it's what works for your family. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. And I don't want to say that stay-at-home moms aren't wise leaders, because
Oh,
that is a hard job. And frankly, I don't think that I could could do
I
that,
I
right?
mean, I feel like the evidence is starting to come out a little bit, thank God, but it's truly one of the most overlooked like callings or choices, whatever word you want to use in life, because especially nowadays, kids have so much up against them, with a lot of the social media impacts and as much expectations as we're talking about leaders and women and folks in the workplace have, kids have it almost more so, of, well, what do you mean you're not reading at this level and taking Mandarin tutoring? And it's,
I
all
know.
this stuff. And so for a parent to be at home and have that calling of, especially emotionally and psychologically, it's really powerful. So yeah, hopefully they realize what studs they are, because I don't think I could do it. So
Right?
hopefully they realize
Right.
how amazing that is.
Yeah, I remember when my kids were little and I was working part-time. So I was in the office 3 days a week and home the
Yeah.
rest of the days. And the days I was home, I mean, I was ready to pack it in by 7 o'clock. I was
You're like,
like,
look at
all
that,
right,
it's bedtime already.
right, right. Let's all go to bed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I never want to diminish that, because I think wise leadership, as I say in the book, it starts at home, and it's home, it's community, it's
Yeah.
work, it's the world, right? And it's
Right.
all those things you impact. And leadership is about influence and influencing
Right.
kids
Yeah.
and your spouse, right?
Yeah.
Co-leading is really important, and where it all starts.
Yeah.
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 One of the things I talk about in the book is making sure you have a tribe, right? Like, especially, I think, well, whether you're a stay-at-home mom or a working mom, you need your people to help support you and keep you lifted and keep you motivated. How does your tribe work? And maybe who are some people in your tribe, Laura?
Yeah. Well, I think first and foremost, again, God bless him, because I'm a little bit difficult, but I would definitely say, even though this isn't a popular answer, I think my husband is definitely part of my tribe. So uh, gosh, we've been together a while. I can't even remember. Let me do quick math. I know I should do math quicker given my job, but we've been together 16 years now. And the
Wow.
thing that was good for me about our relationship is he's my ultimate mirror, which I know some people don't like, but he'll kind of call it out like it is, whether or not I want to hear it. But on the flip side, he never tells me no, and I don't mean that in like a spoiled material way. What I mean is I'll say, hey, I think I would like to do this with work, or we should do this, and okay, yeah, let's check into that, and let's get going on that. So it's been great for me, because and then just the support at home. My schedule, like I said, I chose this job because of flexibility, but unfortunately I'm at that point right now that there's times where I have to be away at night and this and that, and it's just kind of no questions asked, hey, that's what you have to do. So for me, that's been he's just the ultimate kind of person in my corner, so that's pretty important. And I tend to get a little introverted at times towards the end of my day. Like, you probably don't want to see how many books I've read on my Kindle this year, but so a lot of people in my tribe are pretty goofy, honest, and just really fun loving, because I need that. I'm not super serious by nature, but I can get quiet. So it's a lot of people in my tribe are just very accepting of each other's quirks. We all like to kind of have our wine and go on adventures, and we're all very different and driven by different things, but just the ultimate acceptance. So I
Mhm.
think for me, we really embrace the different and we embrace each other. Um, but yeah, they're all way more cool than I am. Just a lot more fun and a lot more fun and laid back. And that's what I need, though. I need, just people that kind of keep drawing me out. Like, hey, we see you're getting stressed out and serious. Let's do something goofy and have some fun. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's important for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you that definitely my husband is number one in my tribe. When decided, I had a previous business, then I went to work for someone else for a little while, and then
Yeah.
went back to work for myself. And when I made that decision, my husband was open arms and like, this is fantastic, and we'll figure it out. And because, as you know, starting a new business is
A lot of work. Yeah.
challenging. Yeah. And, he's an entrepreneur by nature as well, and has always supported my ambition and what I want to do, and is like, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
He is also a straight talker, so I know, but I can always trust what he's telling me because
Right.
I know he'll be honest. Like
Yeah.
you said, even sometimes when you don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
But it's a great person to have in your corner. And
Right.
I would even say my kids are a part of my tribe because they are so supportive, and they just make me laugh. And like you said, that lightheartedness, that
Yeah.
playfulness, and then just my networking groups, and my mom, my God, for sure. Like, even though she's in New York and I'm here in Chicago, for sure. So I
Yeah.
think it's so important to have those people that are like, wow, you're doing a great job. And even when there's always a part of your business you want to change, right,
Yeah.
and grow.
Work
And
in progress. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I think that's part of the fun of it, right?
Yeah.
Is it doesn't get boring.
It's
It,
not
it
stagnant.
does
Right.
not get
Right.
boring.
Yeah.
Um, but to get that feedback and know that you're making an impact, I mean,
Hmm.
I think that's what wise leadership is about, right?
Yeah.
It's about, I always say, like, my goal is to create 1 million conscious leaders in the world. And some people ask me if I'm counting. I'm like, no. But it's like, you know, when you work with one person, they're going to touch so many lives as well, right? And wise leadership and conscious leadership, I think, are the same. It's about where can you share your voice with others, share your purpose and passion, and how can you make a difference in the world, whether
Right.
it's how you raise your kids, the hardest job in the world, or writing a book and impacting, hopefully, many
Yeah.
thousands of lives, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think the purpose is really important, and it might. I guess I would just my kind of hope for people. I know I've seen this even in my own, family and circle of friends, is the bravery to evolve. Because sometimes what you start at isn't necessarily where you might feel called to later on, and a lot of people get. I don't want to say stuck because it's really scary. So I want to honor that feeling. But, just sometimes, especially experiences you have in life, as you talked about in the book, your experience with your sister, that might make you feel like your purpose changes. And
yeah.
I just feel like, whatever your higher being is, I don't know what it is for everybody, but, maybe it's calling you to that for a reason. And so, I just feel like, yeah, if you kind of feel, hey, my purpose is maybe it's my kids, maybe it's my family, maybe it's a neighbor next door that's having a hard time, that's great. And it doesn't have to be one singular purpose. Like mine specifically, I know you and I have talked about it quite a bit, but I just want to make finance less scary and intimidating for people, and ideally make it so that investing seems more commonplace, not any different in a lot of ways than people paying their electric bill, in a place that it's I guess that it's a common conversation because money is so shamed, and I just want to remove some of the shame stigma. But I feel like that's kind of just my work purpose. That's not really me. So yeah.
I I love that purpose, and I find that really powerful because people. I know you grew up in a household where people talked about money because
Yeah.
that's what your parents did. But
Right.
I
Right.
know so many homes that don't talk about money, so much shaming and guilt around money.
Right.
As we know, in the U.S., there's a huge lack of financial education in the
Yeah.
school systems. And beyond. And I think especially women, we haven't really caught up yet in that area as far as knowledge. Even very educated women, a lot of times their husbands still handle all the finances, and they may not even know, where things are, where is their
Yeah.
money invested, and who's it invested with, and why. And I think education around finance is crucial, especially for women.
Yeah. I think it's when you have at least an equal perception or an equal kind of tasking of the money, it doesn't mean that you might have one person who literally is the one, pushing submit or writing the check for the bills. But I think there should be a commonality of, as you said, what are we doing and why? And I feel like I'm saying this from personal belief, so I can't talk for anybody else, but I feel like a lot of times, especially being a woman in finance, it's almost better to pretend that and like literally write it down somewhere, whatever that may be, and go back and figure it out. Because especially for women, and honestly younger women, not that I'm so young as I once was anymore, but there's almost this thing of they're like somebody's kind of waiting to prove to you, oh, that's why you don't really belong here. And unfortunately what that's doing is if you ask too many questions in certain environments, not all of them, people are going to take it as you don't have the knowledge to be where you're at. And so I think it's like a reciprocating cycle, because you're never going to learn unless you ask the question. But you kind of have to be willing to open the door if somebody's saying, what are you doing here? Like, why are you here? So I don't know what the answer is. Honestly, I think about it pretty often of like, how do you kind of break the chicken or the egg cycle? But
Mhm.
it's tough because you got to find a way to learn, and hopefully you can find a safe place to do that, to where you don't feel like your expertise or your career or just your self-worth feeling is altered.
Yeah, that's something you really taught me, because I had been to, so many different financial advisors over the years, and definitely felt like I was shamed or guilted, or how do you not know this, or, kind of
Yeah.
criticized for some choices I made. And it really wasn't until I talked about finance with you that I felt this safe space and this like lack of judgment and a desire to educate. And there was no shaming. There was like, oh, okay, I'm not bad because I did
We're
this.
not going to send you to the corner, I promise.
Right. There's no dunce hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that was for me a really freeing experience.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I just want women to know that that's possible. And
Yes.
it doesn't have to be scary with the right person,
Right.
you know.
I mean, it's going to be uncomfortable. And I don't mean that to like shame people. I just mean if you're looking for help and you've never met somebody, even if they're the best, most empathetic, open person, it's still going to be a little intimidating. It's no different than if I walk into the gym for a first time with a new trainer. I'm going to be a little like, let's see how this goes. I hope I don't die. And it's going to be kind of the same
Yeah.
feeling. And so, but that being said, if you leave and you feel worse about yourself, you feel kind of discouraged, it's probably not the best fit for you. And, so keep looking and try to find somebody that fits not just your financial goals, but, do you really click? Do you feel like it's somebody you can confide in? So
Mhm.
yeah, it's important.
Yeah, I think that is excellent advice, because sometimes we pick up, whether it's a healthcare provider or a financial
Right.
advisor or someone, and we think, well, they're the expert and I just don't know, and I'll
Yeah.
defer to them. And that relationship and that goodness of fit is so important, and you don't have to settle for anything
Right.
less.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
don't have to settle, and you want it to be a good fit, because realistically, as things happen in your life, you have deaths in the family or in your close circle, or you have job changes, or whatever it may be. We're usually in the top 5 calls, of, hey, I'm thinking about getting a divorce. I just lost my job. So it's important that you
Mhm.
feel you're already in a crappy situation. If one of those things is going on, you shouldn't feel like you're adding fuel to the fire to give us a call and fill us in, and a lot of times we can help prevent a bad situation from getting worse, or at least help you through it. And so it's important you feel comfortable with that person to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So coming back to the book for just a moment, what would you say your biggest takeaway from Unleash the Wise Leader was?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. I'm trying to think of just one here. I mean, I feel like I was at a little advantage because I get to talk to you, somewhat often. So
Right.
I've gotten quite a few nuggets of wisdom, but I think I think the biggest is probably what we talked about because it's the most truthful to me, meaning having those boundaries, setting up the grace for yourself and some expectations of it's okay to not do it all. And kind of what power are you giving to people with their opinions? If you have a disgruntled client or family member or whatever the circumstances may be, if their opinion isn't going to matter in a month or however many, it's frustrating. Nobody ever likes to hear bad things about themselves, but really, kind of owning yourself and your worth is going to take you a lot farther than kind of wallowing. And so just kind of realizing those two differences of personal boundaries with relationships and then also with yourself, because I was great with others, but not so good with myself and ended up like a stressed out crying mess. So I think it's good for, folks to kind of realize that's just your relationship with yourself is just as powerful as those with others. And then by doing that, you're going to kind of seep out and, be able to make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's okay to ask for help,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. And to
Yeah.
say no. Both things are
Yes. Yeah.
fine.
That's a big one, right?
Yeah.
Laura, can you tell people where your business is located and how they can reach you if they're looking for some financial help?
Yes. So Legacy Financial, we're in Oregon. We have two locations, Woodburn and Hermiston. We have an Instagram page the handle is at Savings Stocks and Sangria. It kind of goes over what Donna and I said, just a little tongue in cheek, approachable financial advice. And then if you want to get a hold of me directly, it's Laura, Laura, Dix, D as in dog, IX, at lpl.com. So that'll be the email that shoots straight to me. So, yeah.
Fantastic. And if you want to know more about wise leadership, you can go on Amazon and get the book, Unleash the Wise Leader in You. There's also a workbook that you can get there. Or go ahead and visit my website, drdonnamarino.com /products, and all the Wise Leader products are there. So thank you all for joining us today. I will see you next Wednesday with Dr. DJ, and we're going to have a great time. She is a writer and best-selling author, and I just want to thank Laura so much for joining us today and sharing her wisdom, and wishing you all a wise week.
Thank you.
Thank you.